Okay, well, I am good to go.
All right. Hello, and welcome everybody to the January 20th Octant community meeting. We have some stuff, fun, interesting things to share today around what we've been doing for the last week on Electron. So I'm going to hand it over to Sam, and he's going to get started.
All right. Hello, everyone. I am going to hijack today's meeting and some screen sharing and just go through the agenda as usual. So the biggest update that we have so far is...
Can you zoom in just a bit?
Sure. 2, 3.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yep. All right. Whoa. That is a little change. Whoa. All right. There we go. Now we're back. All right. So the biggest thing is that we have the Electron builds available as a nightly. And this is just a proof of concept for the idea that we've had so far of running Octant as a subprocess, node subprocess. And what ends up happening now is that in a nutshell, you have Electron that's effectively a binary that starts up Octant in the background, and you get all the nice things of Electron, and it just becomes a nice little wrapper around how you use it. And the nightlies currently, I think, only has the Linux one available because the build matrix isn't set up, but moving forward from tonight, the Mac and Windows ones will also just be updated nightly. And I think this one is, yeah, you can, these are publicly available, it can be downloaded. So yeah, so check it out. Feel free to take a look. It should be functional. And if there are any bugs, feel free to open an issue. Big thank you to myself. The outstanding issues here are going, well, you can see what's left before we can actually release the Electron builds. If you go into if you go into Octant and you go into something like our GitHub, come on, you can do it, GitHub. Yep, if you go into our GitHub projects board, and I will zoom in this page as well, you will be able to see the status of where all of our current subprojects are, which includes 0.17, 18, Electron, and some other plugin work. Now, if this would load, come on, GitHub, you can do it. Might also just be Zoom running in the background, but it's here under projects. We can just move on. But effectively, we have a couple of issues that we're going to be waiting on. Main one being Monaco isn't loading properly. We want to set up zooming in and out. So currently right now, if you run the Electron build, you can actually do zoom in and out. The only difference is that on the Electron build, you actually have to use Control+ and Control-, where if you notice on something like Chrome, if you do Control=, it will still do the same thing. And you can also get things like Control-0 to reset the zoom. So just minor tweaking just to make sure that hotkeys are consistent with what people usually expect. And honestly, this stuff should be out of the box. So maybe this could even be, or maybe this could be pushed in Electron again, or have someone ping the Electron folks to see what's going on there, or if there's any context around that. And lastly, we also have build flags to optionally embed assets. So currently right now, because Octant is running as a subprocess, when we build Octant, we actually embed a lot of the front-end files inside this little Go file. That's a Go Rice file, and that takes up a bunch of space because when we bundle it as an Electron app, we also bundle those assets again. So in the interest of saving space and compile time, it would just make sense to have a flag so we don't have to bundle the stuff twice. Side note on this one as well, we're currently using a library called Go Rice, and I know that the next version of Go 1.16 is going to support embedding natively. So perhaps we can even drop that library depending on when this lands in master and when we plan to cut. This could actually be 2 units of work at the same time. Cool. Are there any questions about Electron?
I think the only thing that I'd like to add is for outstanding issues, there is some more behavior. You called out some of the behavior things, but also there is things like what happens when you middle click something, right? Like that's a common scenario that people are going to do. So we'll have to make some decisions about what those interactions look like for the initial like Electron like first pass. But we'll just make them anyway. And then I think the only thing I would say is like, please, as Sam pointed out, there's only the Linux one there now, but we merged that PR to get the rest in there, to get all 3 platforms in there. So please try it and report bugs, because I'm sure there will be some.
Yep, absolutely. Cool. Moving on. This is something that was discussed in our stand-up meetings, but not publicly yet. So just throw this on, even though it has the draft hasn't been submitted as a PR yet. But this idea really stems from a sequence of test failures that we've had in Octant recently. And one in particular is about testing how Octant reads the kubeconfig and the information supplied by it. And if you look at the code right now, or maybe not, I'm not going to pull up the code right now, but effectively, currently, if you look at the packaging or the code for how Octant starts in the package.dash, I think, there is this thing called a runner, which starts and then it populates itself with all the information that Octant needs to start getting objects from a Kubernetes cluster through this thing that we call a dash config. And the thing with kubeconfig in particular is that this can be dynamic, right? So a context can be selected by Octant, but also contexts could be changed. Like if you change a context through kubecontrol, you could also change a context by modifying the kubeconfig path that's currently in place. And so there's a lot of cases here that's reliant on the runner picking up these weird particular edge cases. And so what we really want to do is, one, make this more testable. So things like race conditions and things don't start getting in the way, but also we want to actually make this a bit more modular, right? So in other words, we don't want Octant.start to be completely coupled to this idea of a kubeconfig. We just want this to be available when we need it. And so the idea here is to write a proposal where we take this out from the dash runner. And a simpler way to think about this is that if I were to write a third-party library that just says, hey, this is the last change to the kubeconfig, this is the current context, this is what the kubeconfig looks like, and I just want any bit of code to consume it, what would that look like? And that's going to be something that I'm going to be writing a proposal for and hopefully implementing soon, because this is going to impact, I guess, how Octant starts. It wouldn't affect the end user, like most people won't really notice this change, but it would actually increase the utility of Octant, right? So this could be something people can import to track what's changing in their own kubeconfig without even starting Octant. So there's going to be some interesting ideas here. And of course, if you have opinions on this, feel free to ping, and I'd love to talk about it. Cool. Any questions about that? Nope. All right, moving on. Okay. Next one, donut charts improvements. This is going to be Milan, I think. He's been doing a bunch of great work on this. I will let him share.
Yeah, sounds good. So we've been receiving, let me share first. All right, so yeah, we've been receiving a lot of requests about the donut chart, and this is the issue I've been working on. And in this one, we were being asked to expose the color and tooltip properties for the donut chart. So I started working on this, and after looking into the code and the chart itself, and after talking to Isha, we thought might be a good time, especially because this is a very, very simple chart, might be a good time to make it a little look a little more modern and to make it look a little better. So we came up with something like this. At the top, you can see the old chart. At the bottom is the new one. You can see that it has a little edge around each segment, and the segments are also a little bit wider. It still preserves the special treatment we give for critical and warnings, but those segments are a little wider. And adding a little more color, this is kind of what it looks like. So at the top would be the old donut chart with the extra colors. At the bottom is the new one. So Isha and I looked into the different donut charts around it. I thought something like this may make it not only a little more interactive, but also give it a slightly polished look. And I will just go right into the storybook, and here's that example. So when the segment in the chart is moused over, we are showing the tooltip and also indicate, you can see that the opacity is changed for the segment, and also, I don't know, is that coming through the zoom, but the edge is a little wider, so we display the indication of currently selected segment, and also we show the tooltip. In case the description is not provided for each segment, that tooltip is generated on the fly, like here. It just says how many pods has that status. But when you have a description provided together with colors and other things, we will use that description as a tooltip. I'm sorry, this is a little slower on my machine today with Zoom running. There we go. So in this case, we have a description provided for each segment, and those are shown as a tooltip, displayed as a tooltip. So this completely satisfies the request, and also gives some additional ability to make this chart look a little better. And you can, it's pretty easy. You can specify any colors, so you can see the colors can be specified, as well as users, especially I think this will be interesting for the plugin users, the thickness of the donut chart can be changed. So for example, if I change the thickness to 40, it will become wider and so on.
And can you can change the thickness of the individual segments, or is that purely based on the predefined status?
Currently, it is based on predefined status, so only errors and warnings have. But if you feel it would be useful to provide that on a segment level, we can do that as well.
Yeah, I think abstracting, like taking, like basically saying like, here's a common practice
Right.
for like make warnings and errors thicker, but then allowing people to make that choice. I like that a lot better than just saying like, it has to be this status type to get the thicker to get the thicker segment, because like I just like the like I'm looking at this one here and I'm like, man, I wish I could make that red one thicker.
Right.
And the only way to make that red one thicker would be to give it our specific status type, right?
Right. Yeah. So let me actually try that. if I change the status.
I have a comment. Are you all saying allow the user to customize the thickness of different parts of the donut chart?
Right. So we are thinking, so currently that's the way the old chart works. If errors and warnings have special treatment, they are bigger in size. So, after I changed the status on this one to error, see how it became. Yeah, so Wayne is suggesting that we should provide it as an additional parameter on a segment, and I think that's a good idea.
Would the thickness stay the same across different statuses? Like red is a certain thickness, green is a certain thickness. The only reason I point it out is like if you can adjust the thickness for anything to mean anything, that it might get confusing across. If you're using the donut chart in Octant versus a plugin where each thing has its own definition, it might get confusing. So the error should always have the same thickness. Like the user should be constrained to like this thickness for this status.
Right. I agree that we are maybe opening Pandora's box here,
Yeah.
Because if each one of those segments has different thickness, might look a little weird.
Yeah.
And I think for this update, it's fine to leave the old behavior in place, right? That's what people expect. Because then they can just use that status of error to make something thicker. But to me, exposing like size and thickness values and exposing custom status messages and then having the error, like what if I don't want error to be thicker?
Right.
Yeah, my question would be like, what is making it thicker doing? Like maybe there's a better way to show error that's like, maybe it's like striped, or maybe there's like a call to action, or maybe there's like a symbol in there or something, right? Like, I don't know if the thickness might always translate to, oh, this is an error.
Yeah. I kind of feel that we should preserve the old behavior in the sense that they should be thicker, but should we allow the users to configure that on the segment base? That's maybe not.
Yeah. Would the user have the ability to make it all the same thickness?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. As long as we have that, because I don't know if the thickness will always translate to like a status. And so it might not be needed. Like here, if you can see the red, or maybe there's a pattern that indicates like this is an error, then you might not need the thickness. If you have there's like the hover state, and then there's the color. So maybe the thickness is just like an additional thing that's not necessary to communicate an error.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, you can keep it for sure, but just allow users to customize it.
Sounds good. I'll add that then. And let me just show how this looks in the Octant. Yeah, that's it. Any other comments?
Yeah, I have one. I think we should strongly consider adding a legend for this, or at least an optional legend, simply because we're using this in the context of errors and in order of critical errors, but pie charts and donut charts effectively don't have to be that. And we shouldn't have to force someone to hover over the different colors to figure out what they all mean.
Right. Donut charts are pretty simple, probably if not the simplest, one of the simplest charts, and usually don't have legend associated with it. But if you feel strongly that, especially now when we support custom colors and things like that, those charts can get really busy. So maybe we can add that at some point. I wouldn't add it right away, but at some point maybe we can.
So I agree with what Sam is saying here, because I was thinking about, like, I was looking up some like other chart examples of donut charts like what NGX Charts does for their donut chart. And they there's either a line that comes off of it and it has like the text of what the value is, or there's actual text in the segment. But rare, or there's like an exploded view of a donut that is like it's not all crammed together. But it seems like it does seem like there is always, at least in the examples I'm finding just through a quick search, that there's always some context of what each segment means.
So you don't feel that tooltip is giving enough context?
I
mean, this text can be customized too, right? So we can.
Yeah. So I guess I think the point that Sam's raising is an important one, in that like right now in Octant, there's only 3 ways to use a donut chart. It's success, warning, and error. And
Right.
those have clear meaning, and they have colors, and you can't change them, and you can't do anything with them, right? It is what they are. The moment we say a segment can be any color and have any meaning, right? Not only does that change our the experience for any donut chart within the application, but now our chart can no longer be assumed what the meaning is, right? If someone is using Octant because this plugin has this interface, like the Aqua Security folks who want this for security purposes, when I go back to this page, I don't know what, I can't make assumptions about what those colors mean or what those segments mean anymore, because donuts are now customized throughout the application. So I agree that maybe for now a tooltip is fine, and this extension is fine, but I do think it will be important that our charts have legends and call outs, like flyouts, that can be toggled. Yeah, I just think it's really important to call that out, because it like this right here, right? 22 risks. I literally have to go around that whole thing to know what each of those mean.
Right. That's a good point. Yeah. Okay. Sounds good. So let's use tooltip for now then, and then open issue. So gets properly prioritized to provide the legend. I mean, eventually we're gonna support additional charts too, and maybe all those legends should hopefully look the same and behave the same. So, but I feel that for now, especially, we have a lot of customization built in, that the tooltip for now is probably sufficient.
Yeah, I think the issue for me coming out of this would be add a legend component that people can define, and it's not specific to the donut chart. There's just a legend component, and we style that, work with Isha to create a good design for our legend component and style it, and then people can then put one in to help the users identify what things mean.
Sounds good. Thank you. That was a good feedback. And that's all I got.
All right. So we are gonna go to the last item on the agenda, Resource Sphere Designs Update. And I believe, is that Isha?
Yeah, I added that there.
Okay, cool. Are you going to be sharing things, or are you just going to speak?
Yeah, I'm planning on doing some screen sharing. So as you'll know, we have been working on redesigning the resource viewer, and the first problem we're trying to solve is the usability. So if the tree gets really, really, really wide and you have to constantly scroll through it to see the relationships, what do you do? And so we came up with a few concepts, and there's some unanswered questions about some of the directions that we're going in. So one thing I was thinking was, say, right now there's a tree, you can see the deployments, you can see the replica sets, you can see the pods, you can see the service accounts, secrets within that pod, and there's this hierarchy where everything falls into. So you say this is a replica set, you can see the pod that falls into the replica set. And the thing is, with the tree model, no matter what, it gets really, really, really wide. So I was thinking, what if we broke that tree model where it's optimized for scanning? So say you can see the deployment, you don't necessarily see the replica set pod. I'm just using like replica set pods, etc. as an example. You don't. Important is it to see these pieces of information relative to what's in that tree? So for example, this might be a really, really long tree, but instead I just see the deployment, I can scan and see, okay, what's red, what's orange. I can either hover over it, and if I want to, I can click into this and it opens in the sidebar and gives me the hierarchy. And this way it doesn't expand too much and the information is condensed. But my question is, what would you lose by not seeing the context of like the pod which this secret belongs to? And so I was wondering if that is a big interference in the way that users would use the resource viewer. Do we want to do something like this where we're still grouping things, but it's still condensed? So you can see the deployment, you can see the replica set, you can see the pods and those relationships, but maybe not necessarily in a tree view. Or we can keep the tree model, but maybe just condense some of the information where you can hover over it and again, see things in the sidebar. So my question is, again, is it necessary to have this view, or would it be more helpful to just see everything in one go and be able to like drill down into what you want to look at? And you'll be able to click into the details page for, say this is a secret, you'll be able to click into the details page directly from this view or through the sidebar.
So my feedback with this current view, if you zoom back into it a little bit, it's objectively, it doesn't get us anything that a really large data grid doesn't, right? It's because the majority of these are going to be successes, right? So you're effectively, when you see this, your attention is going to be drawn on the reds and the oranges. Mm-hmm. And it just ends up becoming this big block where the majority of the information, the majority of the successes might not necessarily be relevant, and you end up losing some information in the process. What I do like, though, is that, oh, actually, I read that wrong. That's a secret, not a pod, right?
Yeah.
I see. Interesting. Okay. Okay. So now so I guess my question now is that, is this a mix of all the objects under a deployment then?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Let me get back to you. I did not understand this correctly.
Okay. But then like on this view, it might make more sense, right? It's like you still don't see the pod and those relationships, but you can see the replica set and maybe hover over this and see it's the pod, and these are like the secrets.
Yeah, so I the reason I find this probably not, so like if I generally when I'm coming in to debug a problem, I'm like, I either have no clue what I'm looking for, or like I want, in that case I want kind of like guidance. And so like this is like all of these, like I got to go hover over all of these individual things to kind of figure out what's going on, and I don't see the relationship. So like if I like, there might be times where I just don't care that a secret is bad, or that I don't care that certain things are bad, because what I'm looking for is like, oh, why did my pod not start? Right. And so like, I can't quickly get to that from here. Whereas the tree view I can, and the other thing is that one of the things that makes it hard to reason about Kubernetes, specifically like how your application is deployed in Kubernetes, is that the CLI is flat. When you query and say, show me a deployment, it just shows you a deployment. And you're like, well, that's not helpful. I would really like to know what's connected to that thing. So like flattening all this back out, I think viewing this information in a tree provides a lot of knowledge, it's high fidelity. You get a lot of information very quickly just from a glance. Like I know way more looking at that small tree view than I know I have no clue what's going on here. I just know that there's like some replica sets and there's a problem. And then like the middle view, I have no idea what's happening unless I start to drill into things. Like I wouldn't even know how to make heads or tails of that, even with the sidebar. Was the third view, that to me is like intuitive. Like I know that in my deployment there are 3 things that have a problem, 2 things that have a warning, 2 things that have errors, and the one I care, like maybe we can add a little more context of like the icons so we know which ones are pods, which ones are deployments or what. But like this, to me, I can drill into that. I guess I'm wondering if there's a way to like merge these so that when we do have a bunch of items, there's like maybe a like, similar to how we do like now when you click on a pod, it's just the one square, and then you see like how many pods are actually running in the sidebar. If there was some way to like to roll things up that way, I don't know. But the big data grid view, Sam described it well. It is just a data grid. Is I think not,
yeah,
at least in that form is not useful for understanding and debugging. This is way more
plus one there. And I kind of feel that view might be useful if you zoomed out, if you're seeing maybe more than one deployment, and maybe very complex diagram. And then as you zoom in, definitely, I mean, I see huge additional value of showing the tree.
One question, Wayne, you mentioned like it's you can't really see, like you have to hover over all of these. Do you think if that was concealed in this view, it would still be less useful? Like, right, because this right here, it's a tree, but it could still get really, really wide, even though these boxes are much smaller than what we have right now, which I still think is better than what we have. But if we were to add more text here, we could do that. It'd just be smaller. But is it okay that is also concealed and that you might have to like hover over to see it or click to see the sidebar? Like that's also additional context that you're losing. But what you get is like you get the overall view. So there's that trade-off.
Yeah, I think I think it's a case of like when everything is healthy and green and you just want to understand how they're connected, then this kind of condensed view and like you click on it and you get to go through it is okay. But even then, I think just having it's so powerful to just like have ran commands in the CLI, have said, oh, show me a deployment, show me pods, show me whatever. And then you come into Octant and you see the resource viewer and here's deployments, here's pods. So it's all of these resources that you, in your head, you already have a name for, but you've never been able to really map them or link them together in a great way because the CLIs are flat, right? And so the power of having the actual resource name front and center, being able to easily identify that this is of this resource type and here's how they roll up and here's how they're linked together. I do think it's important. I almost think at least that's a requirement of the default view. I think we could have a minimized view or a minimal view that wasn't the requirement, and then more advanced users could take advantage of that. But I see it as almost a necessity. There was kind of like a middle design where it was like the boxes were a little bit bigger than this, but they were big enough that you still could see the resource type. And
Yeah.
I think, to me, I think that with a new drawing algorithm, so like how they get laid out, instead of this just like span it all the way across the screen, if we could lay them out in like a spiral, right? So that they're not,
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
those things combined maybe
Yeah.
produce the ideal result.
I like the spiral view too. I just wonder if that would get like, imagine this upside down, like, you know, it's coming out of here. There's another tree with like a replica sentence upside down. But that's something we could test. One question I have is, say we show the deployment name, we show the replica set name, we show the pod name. What if we kept, I know the secrets and like the service accounts and all that like tertiary information is what makes it like really, really long, right? Because there's more of those. What if we condense those, or would it be important to have the name of that as well? It's like, here you can see deployment, here you can see a replica set, here you can see a pod, or here's a pod, and then these are all the secrets and service accounts. And we have the names here, but these don't have names. They're just these little boxes, and you can hover over it to see more information.
I think if they were using the standard set, I don't know if it's standard or not. I say standard, but I think there is a standard set of Kubernetes icons to represent generic resources like deployments, pods, secrets, replica sets. I think if we were using the icons for the resource, like if we had a map of like, here are the resources we know about and here are the icons that go with them, then in the cases of things like secrets and config maps, I think having a smaller condensed view, and then, you know, making sure we have a legend that says like, here's what each of these icons means would be perfectly fine.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. I'll try that. I'll follow up with you all about the icons, and then I'm gonna try to. I'll redesign this with more like details so you can actually see the name, replica set, pod, whatever, and then try to see how it lays out with like as a spiral, if it was not just extending down and out, but like around all edges. Great. Anyone else have any other feedback? This was helpful so far. Cool. Let me see. Oops. I'm trying to stop sharing. Hold on. Okay.
Just out of curiosity, is your wallpaper actually just red? Or is that an artifact of streaming?
No, so I do the solid backgrounds because it's hard for me to see all the other like files and like screenshots when there's like a patterned background or like an image. So yeah, as you can see, my desktop is really messy.
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing. That was, no, I think this is progressing in the right direction. Things are starting to look really great.
Cool. Okay, so there's nothing really left on the agenda. I think we have open Q&A, and if anyone has any questions, feel free to ping. I don't have the YouTube stream pulled up. Maybe somebody else might. Yep. If anyone has asked any questions there, and if not, we can all get some time back.
Doesn't seem like it.
All right, cool. Then I think we can call it a day.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
All right.
Thank you.
Sure.